Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Breakfast with Gatorchatter. We're in our 11th game. Tennessee week. We're used to these in the first month of the season, but for whatever reason this year they moved it to the end of the season. Rare night swamp game against Tennessee. And we were coming off 10 in a row. It had been since Ron Zook that Tennessee had beaten our Gators in the swamp. And the first thing I'll say is we certainly have the best fans in the business. So for those prospective coaches looking at Florida, watching that game last night, I think they would have to say to themselves, those guys have some great fan support. I know Lane Kiffin had been complaining about a lack of support, lack of fans, lack of students at the Ole Miss games. That game last night, where a bunch of paid players and coaches came to the stadium but didn't play and just stole everybody's money who was there, and those fans still cheered. And they stayed, at least for a while. And they got loud. I I'll confess I didn't see most of the second half. I was done with it. I was just chatting with Jason briefly before we started here, and he did catch the second half, and he told me that the fans stayed through We Won't Back Down, and then they left in the fourth quarter. But it's hard to imagine actually standing there singing We Won't Back Down while getting absolutely curb stomped by one of your rivals because you didn't feel like playing. So I've been a Gator fan for 36 years. I started watching in 89, last year of Emmitt Smith. And I know there's been some bad games, bad efforts over the years. I think I've erased most of them from my memory, but last night was the worst effort I can recall. And just in terms of effort and in terms of caring. The lack of pride was appalling. Even under these circumstances, I couldn't believe it. At the end of the first quarter, total yards 180 to 1. We managed a yard in the first quarter. Both sides of the ball took the night off. Everyone on our sideline made a ton of money. Regardless, while the fans gave up their hard-earned money for that. There's no excuse for a lack of effort. Sometimes you get beaten by better teams. There's no excuse for what we saw last night. I don't know how someone like Scott Strickland can watch what happened last night and not be thoroughly ashamed of himself. I don't know how he could show his face anytime, and he won't. So we don't have to worry about that. He's gone back into his bunker. I'm sitting there just sort of blinking at the screen thinking, boy, this has to be rock bottom. And then I thought of next week, we have to play the Seminoles. No, that's going to be rock bottom. Okay. A really bad Seminole team coming into the swamp on senior night and crushing us flat because they want to win and we don't care. And them dancing their way out of there. But I'm sitting there staring at the screen, and I here I run a Gator message board, a Gator community for 11 years now. And I felt like getting online and apologizing to everyone. It had nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. But I just felt like telling everyone I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I've invited you to this party. I checked the box score this morning, and it was obvious. And Jason will tell us a little bit more about, maybe if he wants, a little bit more about the second half. But obviously that Tennessee took their foot off the gas. They didn't do anything in the second half. I'm sure they could have scored 50, 60, maybe 70 points. I saw that Jaden Baugh had a touchdown. Of course, there's the one guy that always shows up. Maybe Graham on defense and Jaden Baugh on offense. So he's fantastic. I sure hope he comes back next year and doesn't transfer out of here. And I'm hoping he makes that leap to the NFL. He's a great back. But is there any reason to think this team will beat Florida State? Florida State, who had another terrible night and are just in complete disarray. That's the one thing we pointed to that we wanted to do, and there's no reason to think it will happen. The players have no heart, no pride. They have mailed it in. Maybe if someone told them they were gonna take their checks away, they would show up and play a little bit because they couldn't care less about the people in the stands. Could not possibly care less. Urban Meyer was there last night. We had this lead up all week. They were gonna honor Urban Meyer, and I guess he's gonna get into the Ring of Honor, which is well deserved and way past time. And we saw some videos throughout the week, and we got to kind of flash back to the excellence and the amazing run we had under Urban Meyer and those absolutely incredible teams. And he was there last night. What can someone like him be thinking watching that effort? To be able to crawl into his mind there for an hour and hear his thoughts, would have been incredible. And I'm going to bring Jason here in a minute because there really isn't a hell of a lot more to say, but I just wanted to make a comment about what I call the great Gazoo helmet covers we're seeing. And Livingston, our tight end, wears this big goofy padding over his helmet. And you're seeing it in the NFL too. Players have the option of wearing this ridiculous looking cover. And again, it's about safety. Football is a violent sport. And it's safety, safety, safety. So now we're going to allow people to wear a big goofy pad over their already very advanced helmet. And why? Someone said to me last night, well, CTE is a very serious matter. It's very serious. If you're that worried about it, don't play football. I look at that stupid thing and I think, boy, it's just one step closer to bubble wrapping these guys. And in 50 years, I can see players simply wrapped in a foot deep of bubble wrap, just kind of bouncing off each other around. If you feel like you have to wear a stupid additional pad over your helmet, then don't play football. And if you don't know who the Great Gazoo is, did I already say this? Google him. Younger people ain't going to know who he is. I had to get that off my chest. And now I'm going to go to Jason so he can get some stuff off his chest. Morning, Jason.
Hey-o. Well, yeah, I mean, I tell you what, we'll start with this. You talk about Urban Meyer, the great Urban Meyer. No doubt, an all-time college football coach. We're lucky we had him for a few years. There's a couple things I thought of when I saw Herb there on the sidelines. First of all, I thought it was funny that he was standing next to Billy Gonzalez at one point during the game, kind of reviewing that fabled notepad or whatever Billy writes on over there. I can only imagine what was going through his head. But a couple things about Herb that is interesting. First of all, when we went after him, after Zook, a couple things. One is that Utah wasn't established. Urban made Utah established. But before then, it was like, Utah, would we ever hire someone from Utah to coach? But it was different, Urban was different. And his spread offense, I can remember many guys talking about how it's a gimmick. It won't work in the SEC, that kind of thing. And just goes to show that we don't know crap when it comes to what will work and what won't. But what worked was that Urban was special. And not just any coach can do that, make that jump from Utah to Florida. And it was a milestone hire in that this is the first time a coach chose Florida over a big school like Notre Dame. So I was kind of filled with that when I see Urban, as you said correctly, being that we talked about it, that it was probable that they were making this big deal. We didn't think he'd go in the Ring of Honor this time because you'd have more pomp and circumstance. But it certainly makes sense to honor him in the Ring of Honor when you're honoring the 20th anniversary of that 2016. So it makes a lot of sense there. The other thing is that, with Herb is that I know there's a lot of contention about whether we should honor him based on however you feel about how his tenure ended. First of all, whenever you run that hard like Urban does, there's only one way to end, and that is burnout. You're especially at a program like Florida. But what Urban did more so than even Steve Spurrier was he showed what the ceiling of this program is. He showed what you can do at Florida, and that hasn't changed. We could watch what happened last night and blew the Tennessee streak. We knew that was going to come to an end at some point. Might as well be put on Billy Napier's bill. You're going to you're going to burn something. Tag it to a guy you already don't like in there. But Urban showed what the ceiling can be, and it's still there for a special coach who can get there. Now it remains to be seen, Aaron Bland, if whoever they hire next is that guy. But I have to take issue with Kirk Herbstreit, who accused Gator fans. I generally like Kirk Herbstreit. I think he's wrong a lot, and he's wrong about this. He accused Gator fans of wanting to win the press conference with this next college football hire. Win the press conference? You mean like Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen, Billy Napier? You think we want a competent coach that can approach the ceiling that the University of Florida has. So sit down and shut up, Kirk Herbstreit, because to accuse Gator fans of wanting something frivolous, we just want someone that can tap into the potential of the University of Florida. And Scott Strickland and the University of Florida Athletic Association has been on a epic losing streak in trying to assess and address how we do that. Urban Meyer showed what can be done at Florida, and nothing has changed.
Well, the fact that all four of those coaches went on to be utter failures, I guess we're still waiting on to see what Napier does next, but the others went on to do nothing or fail or get fired, just vindicates all the fans. They were right all along. It's not like we had a great coach and we ran them off and they went off and dominated somewhere else.
Right.
Jay, before I forget, Billy Gonzalez scribbling wildly after every play for weeks now has been one of the most ridiculous things. What the hell is he writing? I mean, he's going to go down as one of the worst coaches in Florida because he may go winless. What are you writing? I mean, do you really need to write anything? Okay, that's
maybe he's scratching through every Billy Napier play, just making sure it doesn't. Nope, that one didn't work either. Nope, that one still sucks. Nah, that one was no good. I think that's why Urban wanted to take a look at it. He goes, "Hey, I always see you writing on that pad. Let me have a look at that." And then I can see the look on Urban's face. He was unimpressed with whatever he saw there. Maybe it was a picture. Maybe Billy Gonzalez is really like one of those court artists, where they're doing the renderings and he's doing this DJ Lagway rendering in chalk or something like that on there. I don't know. Maybe he's going to sell them in the offseason in there. I sign me up. I'll buy one.
Jay, we'll get into Kiffin here in a second, but I was also, while we were bombing royally, I was kind of side watching LSU's game at home against Western Kentucky. LSU game at night, and I think it was 3-0 Western Kentucky at the half. We weren't the only team who mailed it in last night. LSU squeaked out a 3-point victory against Western Kentucky last night. So their interim isn't. At least they won. Their interim isn't doing anything either. But okay, the Lane Kiffin saga, which has gotten a little nuttier day by day.
Right.
We see LSU crap coming out of LSU every day. They've offered this, they've offered that. He's leaning to us. He loves us. LSU's the best. We rock. Everyone else, get out of our face. Well, Florida, total silence. Out of our camp. We don't know what to believe, not to believe.
Right.
What's your thoughts, Jay?
Well, I'm dual threaded on this one because all along we've had a search firm that wants to keep things quiet and close to the chest. So you want to believe that you've got one blowhard running his mouth. That's LSU. Blowing a lot of steam. You got Ole Miss saying, "Oh, this is home," and then you got Florida who's being tight-lipped. And you want to believe that it's still all even until an announcement is made. The other thread is as a beaten Gator fan, like, well, we've been taken to the woodshed, and this is what we see a lot online right now because LSU's the one doing all the talking. And ESPN comes on and says, is he going to stay at Ole Miss or go to LSU? And Florida's like, we might as well be University of Leftover Shoe, in their minds. Because why would they come there, right? So I'm torn between wanting to believe what a lot of insiders are saying is that nothing's changed from Florida side and just believing what we've seen as a track record from this UAA and athletic department, which is they've totally fumbled the bag, and it is just LSU. Because the Ole Miss announcement that he's going to announce after the Egg Bowl really means he's leaving because there's no reason to wait if he's going to say, I said this week, and a lot of folks have said the same thing, is that why put your fans through that if he's just going to stay at Ole Miss? So the saga continues. If I had to wager real American dollars, Aaron Bland, I wouldn't wager on Florida based on what? Based on what level of competence could I believe that we could even beat a bungling, loudmouth, totally disorganized Louisiana State University? What they do, I can't even have confidence that we're bringing professionalism, and that's all the things that we have to hang on to. So there's part of me that wants to believe that. That's probably 25% wants to believe that, Kiffin, all the things we talk about with Spurrier and realizing the urban ceiling, coming in with almost no expectation and taking over Florida at the very low point. And the other half of, well, we've blown it so many times in the past with this group. Why would I believe anything's changed?
Well, Florida does not land Kiffin. It's going to be very easy, to blame Scott Strickland. But in this particular case, with all the people he's working with, I'm sure the offer is going to be more than competitive. I
Right.
wouldn't personally blame Strickland for losing Kiffin on this run. However, the issue is this should have been done last season. That's where you can blame Scott Strickland.
Sure.
If Florida had wanted Lane Kiffin, they could have gotten him last year. Now we have all this competition and all this stuff. That's where Strickland deserves the blame. Unless the very presence of Scott Strickland is what's going to keep Kiffin from coming. Maybe he just thinks the guy's an idiot or a jerk. But
hey, that just leveled up Lane Kiffin in my head again, right there. But yeah, I mean, we can blame Scott Strickland because he's the guy. He's the guy that owns the house right now, and he's a terrible landlord. And the fact that he got lucky with Todd Golden, and we won a championship in basketball, and we continue to win because the inertia of the University of Florida and the potential of the University of Florida. Todd Golden showed you can step right in to a University of Florida head coaching position and win championships. And it's the same in baseball. It's the same in any sport. And the fact that we don't is an indictment on the person making the hiring. And you can look across the board, and Strickland is terrible at it. So we can go ahead. Even if he loses on Kiffin, he owns it. He's the guy. And you're right, timing, and just his sheer presence. And then maybe he can promise to never show his face after a win. And maybe Lane Kiffin saw that too. It's like, you know what? I don't think so. But I know Lane's had a good look at Strickland a bunch of times. So, but you're right. I mean, if we don't get him though, Aaron, the question is, what happens next? What does this search firm do next?
Strickland has one of those 1950s bomb shelter bunkers at his house, which has like 5-foot thick concrete walls, which can stop bombs and all kinds of things. And he just goes down in there and
Right.
we don't see him until something positive happens, and then he pops his head back up. So yeah, the non-Kiffin question. Um,
Right.
there's very few opportunities outside of Kiffin where Strickland could save a little bit of face. Lincoln Riley has been discussed. Now, USC did bow out of the playoff run last night against Oregon. A lot of rumors that Riley is just not very happy out there. Um, I would be relatively satisfied with that hire. Other than him,
Well,
what do you think, Jay?
I think first of all we want to identify what kind of coach you want, and if we watched the game last night, the problem with a few of the hires that we've had is that we're coaching. We especially the Napier hire. That as soon as we're down 2 scores, it's over because this offense isn't built to score quickly. It's not built like Tennessee's offense in there. So, and that's the kind of offense you want. And Dan Mullen showed what you can do with talent and an offensive mindset at the University of Florida. You can darn near win every game in there. The problem is, we haven't hired to what we do best in quite a while. That's why the Muschamp hire was a disaster. This keep it close, 1-score game, win at the end is not what you do in a talent-rich state like Florida. It shouldn't be at LSU. It shouldn't be at USC, places where you have a ton of skill talent available. So you want a coach that can tap into that. So, who's out there? Well, if you do a search on where the top offenses are, first of all, I was surprised to see that Lincoln Riley's USC was not up there. But the first one you see is North Texas. North Texas has the biggest offense, and I know that's gotten a lot of run with Morris as the head coach out there. But again, you're like, well, North Texas to Florida, it's kind of a leap. You'd have to really be sure that this guy's another Urban Meyer, and I don't know if you can be convinced of that at this point because they've done it. You've got Golish at USF. They have a great offense going right now out there, but I don't know too many guys that are really interested in him either. Then you've got Key at Georgia Tech. You've got Heupel at UT, and you've got Lane Kiffin. So I mean, you really don't have not a great pool to swim in right now to take advantage of that. But those are the guys you're looking at that truly have difference-making offenses this season in the NCAA.
I just saw someone posted up a tweet from Brandon Spikes, and he said, "I can't get over what happened last night."
Yeah.
What someone like Brandon Spikes saw must have just because he's the
yeah.
king of effort and giving it all you got, and that was completely the opposite.
Well, the coaching has let this team down. I mean, you look at the defense last night. We'll talk just quickly about the game. Tennessee, they just ran some basic combination concepts. They were wide open all day long. If Heupel decided he wanted to throw 60 times, they would have scored 60 points. They just stopped. I mean, they were open 10 yards down the field every play. We used our patented Ron Roberts watch, catch, tackle defense. I don't know if I've seen a pass defended in a month, maybe 2 months out there. We sit way back, scared to death. We watch guys catch the ball, and then we tackle them. That's our defense, pass defense in the secondary right now in there. So I can understand Brandon Spikes being furious. Cedric Faison was online last night, too. And Faison eviscerated this current coaching staff. Couldn't believe, what he was watching out there and said, enough. Get everybody out of there. Start over. That was what Faison said last night. Who can blame him?
No, Billy Gonzalez, he hasn't earned the right to stick around. I know we love Billy Gonzalez. He's been in and out. He's done. He's infected.
That's right.
He's infected with loser.
Right.
I don't know. He got it from Napier, and it ain't coming off. He's a leper. You have to take these guys and put them on their own island somewhere.
That's right.
They're going to go somewhere and infect someone else. Billy Napier infected this team with
passive.
the opposite of Urban Meyer. It's the mentality. It's the opposite of the Urban Meyers, where winning
That's
is
right.
everything. Winning, winning, winning. Just maybe it's pang, pang, pang. That's the mentality
Yeah.
here. Now, Jason, you mentioned Morris of North
Yeah.
Texas. Now, hiring a guy from North Texas is the kind of thing that we all fear anyway. We're going to take
Right.
some schmuck from some tiny school who has no SEC experience or whatever and stick him in there and he'll probably fail. And it's probably true. But I'd rather take a guy like, if we don't have any choice here, I'd rather take a
Right.
guy like Morris with a huge offense who believes in scoring, than
Right.
some stiff who's going to have these horrible, boring offenses again. You
Right.
know, Jason, there's almost no one we're going to hire that we can say, well, this is a championship coach.
Right.
We're just hoping to be competent for a while now. It's a bad run. We have all these openings and not very many good coaches to show for it. Lane
Right.
Kiffin, because of the circumstances, looks like Nick Saban right now
He
because of the
does.
lack of candidates.
Terrible.
And we've put him
It's
up on this pedestal.
well, because he stands above in terms of what he's delivered at that level, in there, and the fit for what we're looking for to take advantage. And not, I don't think obviously he doesn't have Urban Meyer's ceiling. He doesn't. But he can at least get somewhere up that ladder to take advantage of that. Higher than Mullen, but lower than Meyer. And they have to try to do that because they can't see who's out there. And talking about Eric Morris out there, it's not like when I mentioned Urban and Utah wasn't Utah, and we would have never wanted to hire somebody that coached at Bowling Green in Utah, but Urban was unbeaten and a top 3 team, I think, that year. So it was different. North Texas is not like that. Now they're better than they've been, I think. But, Eric Morris, but like you said, in the pool that we're looking at right now, in this slightly chlorinated, can I swim in that or not? There isn't many options out there. And that's why it's kind of Kiffin or bust right now. But I agree. I think I would rather take a shot at somebody with an innovative offense and bring some excitement. But don't give them a $20 million buyout with no offset, and don't do the stupid stuff that you would do for an established coach. And the things you never should have done with Billy Napier, except that you wanted to show that we'll give you what you need to come here. And
See, I believe in 3 years
right.
that Lane Kiffin is going to leap again somewhere else,
Right.
probably the NFL. I think the NFL is going to come calling and he's going to leave.
Somewhere else.
That's what he does.
He's not going to retire in Gainesville. Not happening.
And he probably doesn't know what he wants. But Kiffin, his smartest play, Jason, if he has any NFL aspirations at this point, and I don't know if he does or not, but if he does, he should just stay in Ole Miss. Take their enormous raise. He could take an enormous raise, be there 2 or 3 more years, and then leap to the NFL. Instead, he's going to go somewhere else, and then he's going to bail on them. That's why I kind of like the idea of Lincoln Riley a little more, because I think he's a coach that's going to stick around a little longer than Lane Kiffin. All right. The fact is, we don't know.
Right.
Maybe a week from today, Jason, maybe we'll have more to talk about on that front.
We'll know something in there, and I'd be surprised as it gets closer to that. First of all, we know this. If it's LSU, they can't keep a secret. Those blabbermouths, it'll get everywhere. And I mean, the lies get out so fast, they'll tell you their social security number over there at LSU. They can't keep anything down over there. So if it's truly Lane, we'll know. We'll know as the Egg Bowl's wrapping up, and they're going to make the announcement Saturday night, according to their AD.
We're going to know before that.
But we'll know before then. That's right.
Jason,
that'll be the final nail in the coffin for that nail in the Kiffin. If they, by then. But we'll know by then.
Florida State. I watched their bumbling ending at NC State yesterday, where they muffed 2 punts, including a punt that bounced off their player's head back towards the line of scrimmage so far that the punter recovered the fumble. Now, that has to be the only time that's happened in football history. But I mean, this is where they are. They're bumbling bunch of fools. Do
Yes.
we have any pride left? Are we going to let them come in and win? Do we need Brandon Spikes? Do we need to let him loose in the locker room?
Tennessee showed their competent coaching staff. I can't say the same about FSU. State is not well coached. Josh Heupel, when they were talking about running him out, we said it right here on this show. We'll take Josh Heupel. Absolutely.
But Jason, if a team isn't going to play, if they aren't going to put forth the effort, they can lose to anybody. We both know that.
See, I didn't. Yeah, they didn't put forth the effort. I think that's where they were coached. They were coached sitting back. They're coached to be passive. They have that Napier stink. They're coached to being passive. I mean, I still saw Graham. I still saw Sapp. I still saw guys trying. Can FSU throw the ball? Do they have the same concepts as Tennessee? I don't think so. So I think, I'm holding out that. Yes, I think that they're not quitting. They're just coached so passively that it looks bad. And and if we have as long as we have Jaden Ball,
give him 40 carries.
Give him 40. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And tell DJ Lagway he sits every time he throws off that stinking back foot. That touchdown throw, he stepped up into the pocket, threw like a normal human being, and he hit Ball perfectly for the touchdown. I mean, just show that play a million times to Lagway, and they can beat State. And, there's no draft pick at stake here, so no problem if we beat State on there. I think we have a chance because State is as bad as we are.
Jason, thank you. Before our meeting next week, a week from now, we're going to know a lot more. We're going to know about our coaching situation next time we meet. So we're going to have
we have the list of alternates ready to roll.
There's going to be, if we don't get Kiffin, there's going to be a meltdown.
Will there be though? Will there be a meltdown? I mean, this is just more of the same.
Yeah, the people that melt down is a much smaller percentage than it used to be.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So few people care compared to the way it used to be just 5-10 years ago. So thanks.
That's true.
Jay, thanks so much. I love the shirt. You might get some comments about the shirt, but I like the shirt.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one, man. Thanks.
See you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around, the few diehards that tune in to Breakfast with Gatorchatter. Maybe someday we'll have a team worth watching and we can get a bigger audience. If you liked what you saw, give me a like, give me a subscribe, make a comment, even if it's a shot at Jason's shirt. Leave a comment on YouTube. I think that helps the algorithm. I don't know, but it's all about FSU now. That's the one game. Do we have any pride, Gators? Are there any pride left? Do we have to open the locker room door before the game and let Brandon Spikes loose in there? Because I wouldn't want to be around Brandon Spikes before that game and the kind of things he's going to say. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Very thankful for my community on Gatorchatter and watching that game yesterday. Very proud of the fans. This fan base is great. Someone like Lane Kiffin has to have watched that game and said, man, these fans, they're just incredible. What an incredible bunch of fans to come and cheer on that team. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.